Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Beck. It is great to be back. I am joined by Andrea, Jan, and one of our almost kind of regulars, Dr. Steve Nagel. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you again.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy week. I know we've had some best of shows this week, but everyone is kind of going busy this way and that way. We have a Freedom Fest coming up this weekend. We had, there's just all kinds of things going on right here locally. I was down in Nashville for the Cattlemen's Beef Board meeting, learned lots of things, and hopefully you can touch on how good beef protein is good for
we could definitely talk about that
a
for
diet.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But here are some of the things we're going to get to, and so you're going to want to stick around. There's something for everyone. Basically, health restoration with chiropractic care, the chiropractic paradigm, firefighting versus being a carpenter to get your health back, and then also some COVID comorbidities, and we're going to talk about long haulers and COVID, and then of course health freedom coming up, and there's all kinds of things going on with Sanford and now St. A's right here in Bismarck requiring vaccines in order to work there. So lots to get to, so stick around. But first, Dr. Steve, thanks for coming again.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You always bring such good information to the show. So what are we going to talk about this first segment?
This first segment, well, I think what's come up kind of recently is, I think it's important maybe a little bit to know a little bit where I come from and the perspective that I bring to healthcare in general.
Yeah, because some people believe in chiropractors and some call them quacks. And, I think all of us here on the panel, we've all have a great respect for chiropractic care.
Yeah, so I actually grew up small town North Dakota, born and raised in Linton, North Dakota, and went to school to become a physical therapist. Found it wasn't right for me, ended up getting a nursing degree, and I've actually worked ICU for a year and a half before I went back to chiropractic school. So I've had experience in what we call that firefighter realm, where we talk about putting out fires. And during that time, I met a chiropractor, and lo and behold, I was interested enough, I was curious, so I started getting adjusted, and within about 2 months, my asthma and allergies were about 80% gone, right? Wow. I haven't used an inhaler since that day. The asthma allergies, the decongestion, Dimetap, Benadryl, all those things are all a thing of my past.
And so how do you think that happened? Is it just nerves in your body, or what is it when they adjust you?
Well, absolutely. So your nervous system, your endocrine system, and your immune system, they're all very intricately related. And so if you have stress in one area, it's gonna spill over into those different areas and create a shift in how that immune system functions. You could go on and on, all that sort of thing. How the spine moves has huge implications in how the body manages stress in the different stress response areas of the brain. And so by normalizing movement of the spine, you actually will exhibit brain changes, which ultimately will affect how your immune system functions.
So by stress, you are not talking just, I have a hurried schedule. You're actually talking with
a physical
stressor. Trauma to your body in some form or fashion.
Our entire profession back in the late 1800s, early 1900s was built upon the idea that thoughts, traumas, and toxins create disease, right? So that the thoughts, right, meaning the amount of stress in our world, the amount of how we react, fear, anxiety, all those things, right? And that we can think ourselves sick, and we know that can be true. And then the physical traumas, right? So stress to the spine leads to stress to the nervous system, which leads to stress all the way throughout the body, or your body's inability to adapt to stress. It's the health of your nervous system that determines how a lot of the physiological mechanisms in how your body's physiology actually works. And so when I started to see those changes, I knew that I had found what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people before they got to the point where there was no turning back, because you see a lot of that in the ICU. And we're seeing that a lot in the world of COVID today too. I can actually say that without getting censored.
Great.
Right here on Beck.
Right here on Beck.
I don't have to mince my words and So when we talk about those pre-existing or comorbidities before that person gets sick, I think we have to really start talking about what does that person's health look like when they're exposed to any sort of virus, bacteria, or other sort of stressor. And I think that's a conversation we've been having since I left chiropractic school 10 years ago, but it's become much more pronounced in the last 18 months.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about how chiropractic care came into being. Just, I mean,
yeah. Well, it's interesting because there's I think a great analogy is chiropractic care started with these results that nobody could explain. And since then, the research and science has been found to very much validate the benefits of chiropractic care. Whereas the practice of medicine started with a theory and an idea, and all the research has been built around trying to validate research to the theory versus to the clinical outcomes, which is really interesting.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that have shared stories of their chiropractic care and things that people who haven't had chiropractic care maybe don't realize, you know, children with earaches or, you know, colic. There's lots of things that can benefit from that.
It's amazing. And clinically speaking, you know, sometimes people will ask, well, where's your proof, right? Well, each individual is different, right? Everybody's physiology is different. Everybody's stressors are different. And so to have a random placebo-controlled trial is impossible because everybody is a study of one, right? And so, when somebody asks me like, well, what sort of research do you have for this or that or the other? I'm like, well, come spend a day in my office and interview the patients that come in and out of here where their thyroid hormones are unexplainably out of whack, and after 3-4 months of chiropractic care, they're normalizing, right? Where the asthma, the allergies, right? Patients with oxygen saturation levels of mid-80s living that way, right? To where a month worth of chiropractic care, the only thing we've changed with them, and their oxygen saturation levels are upwards of upper 90s, and their medical doctor literally tells them, I don't know how it works, but keep doing it, right? And so that's kind of where we get to live a different reality, and that's what's so gratifying about what I get to do every day. And so yeah, the beginnings of chiropractic were somewhat actually, you know, and there's a lot of controversy about those first few years because it actually started all with an adjustment that ultimately, of a genitor that ultimately, for some reason, his hearing improved because he was deaf in one of his ears. And so it started with there, but then it's evolved into looking at more so how science affects, the science of how the chiropractic adjustment and how movement physiology affects our neurology and affects overall health.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. I know some people don't know if chiropractor is right for them. I will share my first, well, not my first, I'd always been to chiropractors, but I was in a car accident in Minot, or on the way back to Minot in a snowstorm. A pickup hit us from behind. And anyway, I had a pinched nerve in my neck and had x-rays, everything at the hospital in Garrison actually, but I was also on the track team. And it's like I couldn't move this arm, couldn't move it. So they sent me to the sports chiropractor, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
And he said, well, lift your arm up. And I couldn't lift this arm up. I had to lift it up. He cracked my back and my neck that day. And within moments, I mean, it wasn't like magic, like strength, but I could lift my arm up. But we only have about 20 seconds left. So maybe you can follow up and tell our viewers how that works so quickly when you have a pinched nerve like that. But we have more to come up right after this. But first, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after-hours oasis of sanity. Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Hey everybody, I'm Doug Billings, your host of The Right Side with Doug Billings on Beck News. We bring you high-profile guests, ladies and gentlemen, exclusive guests. Now, you're not going to see these guests in most of the mainstream media outlets. Another thing that I do here is give guests a platform to speak freely. You're not going to see me censor anybody. Please join us, won't you? Weeknights right here on Beck TV and online at beck.news. Cheers.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We're going to try to get through this without Mary getting tongue-tied. We're talking on the break about, this is the Friday train, like what track are we on, which one are we going on? But this was the Friday train. But we're talking about how some people can have an instant result if it's a physical. But I know you also work with things that long-term too. So
yeah, I think that's a really great question because a lot of times people think of chiropractic as kind of like a firefighter for back pain, headaches, the numbness and tingling in the arms and that sort of thing. And that can actually be a really great thing, right? If you have a shift in that spine, right, that brain sends energy down through that spinal cord and then out to not only all your organs, tissues, and glands in the body, but also to your muscles, and your entire sensory system is literally your nervous system, right? And so if we get a shift in that structure of that spine, that's gonna stress those areas, and that's where those short-term, really miraculous things that seem to the patient like a miracle, right, can be a reality. However, most issues are a lot more chronic than that. Most traumas and most stressors on the body, they happen and oftentimes go unaddressed for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and then we end up with these chronic problems that take time and repetition to actually address. And so a lot of times when someone comes into our office, you know, they'll say, well, I don't know what happened, or it just gradually got worse over the years, or they're bending down to pick something up and they hurt themselves. Yeah, and that's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And so taking a clear look at actually what's going on with that person and then figuring out what needs to happen and then actually looking at restoring function. If we sprained our knee, right, one day and we never actually restored normal movement to it, it's going to have problems down the road, right? And that's that same thing. We have 26 bones in the spine, and in between each of those bones, we have roughly, depending upon the level, 7 different joints between each of those. And so, and any of those can stop moving. If they stop moving, they tend to deteriorate just like other joints. And so restoring a normal movement is really important for restoring normal physiology. Those same joints actually feed the brain, send signals up to the brain to tell your body that it's okay, right? And if that information isn't getting through or it's distorted, that's where you'll actually see physiologically an increase in the body's stress response, because that body relies upon that signaling system to know that it's okay.
Interesting. You know, kind of on the same wave, all right, I also had a pinched nerve in my low back, but I didn't know it. I wasn't having any issues, but he had found that. And I said, well, what would have happened had I not come here? And I used to run track for Minot State, and he said, you would have just gotten slower and slower and not known why. There wouldn't have been like, why, you know, why did I peak? I must have peaked and now I'm on my way out. He said you would have just gotten slower because it was cutting off movement to one of my muscles.
Right, and so that would be what you would consider, what we would consider to be more of that carpenter approach to healthcare, right? Meaning, instead of looking at the body like a firefighter, meaning what fires do we need to put out, from a carpenter perspective, how can we build a strong and resilient body? And that's looking at the structure of the spine. I've always been fascinated, obviously, as a nursing degree and things, looking at labs, looking at all the other aspects of physiology. And so over the last few years, we've gotten a lot more into looking at the rest of the body as well, instead of guessing about what foods a person should or shouldn't be eating, but having individualized healthcare, because those different stressors affect different people, and different stressors affect people differently. And so starting to actually be able to look at foods and nutrition and different, you know, what's affecting maybe their GI system, their digestive system, or their hormonal system. I know you said Kara was on Tuesday, probably talked a little bit about hormones. What's affecting, you know, I mean, you name it, every system in the human body, right? We look at that body like a Swiss watch. And with what we call a chiropractic paradigm, right? Meaning a perspective of health that's looking to build and restore health instead of simply treating symptoms.
So is it possible to limit your stress response without limiting the stressors?
That's a really great question, right? Because there's a certain amount of stress that we're never, ever going to be getting away from. You know, the last 18 months for many people is somewhat the most stressful aspects of their, you know, of maybe their entire lives, which is interesting because an elevated stress response has been shown to increase your risk of respiratory infections. Imagine that, right?
Wow.
And so we have to ask those questions. Is everything that we're doing to you know, this constant state of fear, social distancing, all these things, right? Not being able to read facial expressions, mild hypoxia, like all these things, right? Do we really need that extra stress? But to answer your question, there are some things that a person can do, right? Meditation has been shown to be extremely effective in decreasing that stress response, optimizing your spinal function, right? I wouldn't be a chiropractor if I wasn't actually talking about that. So making sure any problems in the spine are being addressed appropriately. Different herbs, we use a lot of different herbs to help to calm the stress response. California poppy, kava is great to stimulate what we call that parasympathetic response.
What does that do? What is a parasympathetic?
The parasympathetic, so if we talk about that stress response, that's that state of emergency, right? The gas pedal. That's what we would call like the gas pedal. The parasympathetic is more the brake pedal, right? Meaning slow things down, rest, digest, reproduce, go to the bathroom, right? And so that part of that physiology, that part of your nervous system is the part where we heal, and where, you know, it's that calming part of the nervous system. So anything we can do to stimulate that parasympathetic system helps to balance out those two systems.
And that's called kava? Is it K-A-V-A?
Yeah.
Or how do you spell it?
K-A-V-A.
And you can get that at any health store?
I have no idea.
There's a kava bar near my house in Florida.
We use it. We
That's
use
a
it
coffee place.
if we believe that people will respond to it well. It's not something we'll use with everybody. Other options, bacopa, a CBD oil, can be great. I mean, there's a lot of different great things to help the body to adapt and mitigate the effects of stress.
Wow.
So how do you explain the main, I was going to say mainstream media, but the mainstream medical community, why do you think that there's resistance sometimes to chiropractic care?
Yeah.
My own experience was...
I think there's a number of things, but I think primarily it goes back to a lack of understanding, right? So if you're trained as a firefighter and everything you look at is a fire, your two solutions are axes and fire hoses, right?
And you're more like, hey, I'm the electrician, I'm going to fix
yeah,
the
I'm over
wiring
here saying,
in
don't
this
call
building.
me. Yeah, don't call me if there's a fire, right? That's not my role. My role is to build healthy, strong bodies. And so that's where we're the carpenters. We have the tools to build healthy, resilient bodies. And so I think that's the main part is mostly misunderstanding. Even when I was experiencing the amazing benefits, like before I even went to chiropractic school, I started to ask my colleagues in the hospital about it, and I got mostly like not very well educated responses. Some of our best patients are nurses. Some of the hardest patients are also nurses, right? A lot of them either get it or they don't, right? And so it's kind of one of those things where, like, if a person recognizes that maybe that what they're doing doesn't have all the answers, and they're open to learning, that's when there can be this great connection, this great ability to co-manage and work together.
Wonderful. Wow. I just love it when you're on. You share such great information. But we're going to have to take another quick break. We'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Go for Launch 2018 series winner. Without further ado, it is my honors. Reginald. The winning team is the Flumin River Excellent.
Oh my God!
They won!
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car! How will we? The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing. But how will we? The closing!
From Lambeau Field to your living room. Catch all the Green Bay Packers preseason games exclusively on Beck Sports. Available on KRDK, KNDB, or KNDN TV. The Pack take on the Houston Texans August 14th, followed by the New York Jets August 21st, and end off the preseason with the Buffalo Bills August 28th. Check Beck.Sports to find more scheduling and local channel information.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. You know, we were just looking
With
at
the dude.
And a dude. Yes, we have
Yeah.
a dude today. But we were just watching the ads, you know, Beck Sports. I mean, that's kind of how Beck got started here. And the State Fair was on just a couple weeks ago up in Minot, and there's a Beck booth up there. And I guess a lot of the people came up when we're talking about the different shows that we have here and the medical advice and just the different things that are going on. So kudos to Beck Sports and kudos to just Beck TV in general.
I love that you guys aren't afraid to take a stand and not say the things that all the other mainstream medias are being told to say. I love it.
You know, they could hire prettier girls and they could hire you know,
what?
I'm just
They could get a teleprompter and get somebody to read.
Get a teleprompter, someone
Yeah.
who isn't tongue-tied, but they're not real people. We're real people doing real news.
Yes, we
That's
are.
how we are, and that's all they wanted.
we
So
roll.
we're excited to be here and that we can share this kind of conversations and
Yeah.
information, because you can't even talk about COVID on a mainstream media and
Yeah.
say that
I mean,
it can be cured.
If you mention it, like even on social media, like your live videos just turn off, and it's just wild.
Yeah, amazing. All right, so let's
So-
pick up where we left off.
Yeah, so we were talking about stress physiology, and a lot of, and when we talk about even the whole COVID thing, over the last 18 months, it's interesting because the message in our clinic hasn't changed, right? We've had to tailor that message towards immune system health, but for the last 10, 15 years, we've been saying we need to have a conversation about the state of our country's health, right? The state of how we view health and and we need to move from extremely reactionary, waiting till there's a problem, to being proactive and actually building these strong, healthy bodies. Using testing, using the different activities and the different things that you can be doing at home, as well as, like we talked about before, everybody's different, right? So that specific individual testing. It's really interesting when we look at, you know, where is this conversation about comorbidities, right? Why are we not talking about this? There's been research out even 2 months in that these major comorbidities are a huge role. 40% of our population's pre-diabetic, right? Or diabetic itself, which means almost 1 out of 2. And so when we talk about this fact, and we know that significantly worsens outcomes when you're exposed to this virus. And you know, we look at decreased immune function, right? Our society promotes a basically constant onslaught of things that damage our immune system throughout a lifetime. And so if we're not doing something consciously, proactively to rebuild that and to be responsible for that, we can expect an outcome that's not so great.
Well, you know, if you go to a grocery store, you know, I'm a chronic outside shopper because there are aisles and aisles and aisles of things that they call food that I don't call food.
Yeah, food-like substances.
Well, yeah. But, you know, somebody said, well, if there's a health food section in the store, what does that make the rest of it? Or if, you know, they said, well, stay away from the junk food. Well, no, there's either junk or there's food. It's not really junk food because it isn't really food.
Right.
And that's what's pushed and promoted through the media and, you know,
it's been a non-topic
marketing.
for 18 months.
Yes. And why?
Right, and so why not? And that's, you know, only we can speculate. But when you're controlling the conversation, when somebody else is controlling the conversation, and those that have a different perspective have something to say, you tend to get ignored, right? And so when we look at that, right, comorbidities, it's interesting because now there's this thing about, oh, but what about long COVID, right? Like all these long-term effects of the virus or the infection or however you want to term it. Well, the question that I have to bring up is, what did their health look like going into it? Beyond just the basic stuff that a person gets at their general health practitioner, because most of that is very incomplete, right? Maybe some basic lab testing, checking a cholesterol, a blood pressure, a general chemistry panel. That's not healthcare, right? And so that's our biggest frustration is why are we not looking? Why are we not doing pre-post studies with even with the vaccines, right? Why aren't we looking at D-dimer? Why aren't we looking at other factors of inflammation pre and post? They say that it's safe, but I've seen 0 studies where they're actually looking at complex, in-depth lab testing pre and post doing these things. In fact, I know there's a doctor up in Canada that lost his job because he started doing that. He started running D-dimers, which is a marker of cardiac inflammation, on all his patients, and turns out 65 roughly, I don't know the exact number, pre and post COVID had elevated D-dimers. And so if we're talking about these different issues and we're saying they're safe, let's prove they're safe. Let's get some actual hardcore lab testing done instead of just using our PCR testing as the entire gauge of where we're at in our healthcare system today.
Wasn't that trashed? I mean, are they still using it?
So I haven't followed specifically closely with that too much to actually weigh in. As I believe, like what actually happened was the PCR testing they were using could not differentiate between a flu and COVID itself because it was just specifically looking for one thing. Some of that they have now, I haven't actually been able to get my hands on the lab packets to know. And so I can't weigh in, but I do believe that what they're doing now is they're attempting to look at other, like the flu virus and things at the same time.
Yeah, COVID basically eliminated the common flu and the common cold.
Well, it's convenient.
Super convenient.
Yeah.
You mentioned comorbidities. You said 40% are pre-diabetic.
Correct.
Some of those kinds of things. But at the same time, we don't have 40% of COVID people who get COVID dying. So how do you connect that math with so many comorbidities and pre-existing
So not everybody's
conditions?
the same, right? So when we look at the people that are not living through it, right, that's not just one component of health. There's multiple components. Do you have a lot of chronic inflammation? Are you your gut health, right? So one of the things with that I think was really interesting that I've just been studying, because brain health is really intriguing to me, is the memory loss, right? The memory loss, confusion, brain fog after getting COVID. And it turns out that they've done in other countries, right? They have pre and post MRIs that they actually had on record beforehand, and then they were doing post MRIs after people had been sick. And what they found was that there was parts of the brain were actually damaged, the parts that regulate memory, emotion, empathy, smell, and it's crazy, right? And we think about like the whole lack of empathy in our world today, right? Smell, taste, right? These different areas were actually deteriorated. And so I started to do some further research and looking at the mechanisms and that sort of thing. And what happens is there's a chemical in the brain called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's important because it helps your body to grow new nerves, but it's also important that it protects it from damage, protects your nerves from damage. So I was like, well, okay, so they're saying these levels are very much decreased in these people after they've had COVID. So my question was, well, what about before they ever had it? So I started looking at the different physiological effects or the physiological situations where BDNF would be decreased. Lack of sleep, right? Insulin resistance destroys it, right? If you reverse your insulin resistance, your BDNF levels will go up, right? What else? Butyrate. So butyrate is a chemical that your digestive tract should make, and we test for this sort of thing every day. And that's why it was really intriguing to me, because we test for that when we're testing digestive health for levels of butyrate. It's a chemical that your bacteria should make. And butyrate actually helps your brain to make its own BDNF. And so there's all these different aspects that actually deplete your BDNF stores. Therefore, if you're not taking care of yourself before going into this, right, and you get sick and you have this inflammatory reaction, it can potentially hurt parts of your brain, right? The good news is that these parts of your brain do have some ability to be regenerated.
Okay.
And the answer is to actually restore BDNF production to your body, which is super fascinating for me.
Fantastic. We're going to have to take another quick break.
Yeah.
It's flying by today, but we'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Back.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you. What happens with national debt? Does anybody even care anymore? Do you think Governor Burgum truly understands the legislative process?
You know, I think he's got a better understanding now than he did 2 years ago.
Why in the world are we having a conversation about being anti-vaccination? Down the Road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got my pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are joined by Dr. Steve Nagel. You know, I was thinking, we as Americans, we are the richest nation in the world.
Yeah.
But we have the poorest health in the
Of
world.
all developed nations.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, and I guess that's what we're talking about with the comorbidities. We are just the sickest nation around. It's really horrible. One thing I do like, though, is it seems like there's a lot more people are becoming health conscious in the sense where, you know, with COVID and whatnot, they're leaning more towards natural health, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think there is this awakening of people that recognize, look at what these systems, like these massive systems in the general mainstream system is trying to shove down our throats. And they're saying, man, this isn't normal. This isn't right. Something's wrong here. And you're seeing people actually start to wake up and say, like, hey, there is a different way about this. I need to start searching a different form of healthcare.
So with that same thought in mind, I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot more healthcare places opening up just for the fact that Sanford Health and now St. A's have both said that their employees have to be vaccinated, which is horrible. They survived through this huge pandemic, and now that the pandemic is kind of going away, now you need to be vaccinated.
Right.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts, but we only have 10 minutes. First off, if we're relying and if we're saying that this is the solution, right? What about people that have had COVID naturally? Right?
Right.
What about them? If they could prove, right? If they could prove that they've already had it and that they're not infectious, right? We know that people that had the SARS virus 15 years ago still have immunity today. We also know that these shots that they're giving, they're now having to give a third shot because the immunity that's giving is so poor, if any, right? It doesn't specifically prevent you from getting COVID. So they've moved the goalposts one more time, saying, well, it may not prevent you from getting it, but it's going to but everyone that's being admitted into the hospitals has not been vaccinated, which that is a whole nother topic to talk about.
Untrue.
Right. Meaning what is getting put in chart notes. I know nurses after this thing have reached out to me talking about how they're not supposed to be putting certain things into chart notes any longer.
Wow.
And so like, and we had, you know, it just in my heart, like it's just so deflating to see all these people coming and confiding in that there's all these different things going on. But when I look at, ultimately, it comes down to freedom of choice. And if I would choose, if this is about keeping yourself out of the hospital, because that's what they're saying now, like when it's not about if you get infected or not, it's whether you end up in the ICU or dying. Well, then let's go and look at vitamin D. Let's look at some of these other nutrients. Let's look at what we can do to keep you from getting into the hospital so that if you don't want this experimental thing, right, we'll call it mRNA injection, there's other ways to protect to keep you out of the ICU, that sort of thing. And they'll tell you it's the most effective thing out there, and yet nothing else has been studied. Everything else has been basically quieted to the point where we've spent how many billions of dollars just trying to prove that this works. The entire original study has been unblinded, which means that we're losing our placebo group right before our eyes, because everybody that hasn't, in the study group that hasn't, is now being promoted and told that they should go get their vaccine. What do we have to compare that to 5 or 10 years from now? Right. And where is the ethics in research? Where's the ethics in all that stuff?
Well, and I read a report just last week about the billions and billions of dollars that were spent on the vaccine. Everyone thinks this vaccine is free. Oh, heck no. No, it is not free. It is government funded, which is taxpayer funded. Okay, that's why they're saying it's free. But the manufacturers are making billions of dollars, not only on the COVID vaccine, but there's been a lot of heart issues and a lot of clotting issues.
Yep.
And the clotting medication, they've made billions of dollars on the clotting medication now. Side effects of COVID.
Wait till the autoimmune problems start kicking in.
Wow. And so you almost think that it's just pharmaceutical driven in a sense, where it's all about money, like follow the money.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it, but at the same time, there's...
You can hear.
But, I mean, when you start to take a look and take a step back, and if things aren't making sense, right, you need to start asking maybe that your paradigm or how you're viewing things is a little bit different, because for those of us, and I get that you guys see it, right, you guys understand what's going on, and it's not what's really happening, it's we see what's happening and we see what's coming. And you know, I have a bunch of family members that used to think I was a conspiracy theorist. Now they're asking me to get caught up.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
And like, how do we catch up? So.
But you look at the hospitals and the like, and if they're forcing people to, number one, you know, HIPAA seems to be like non-existent these days, because almost any entity can ask you what your vaccination status is. And it used to be your medical information was your own, and not to be shared publicly at all. And now if they force these people to make a choice whether to either get fired, leave the profession, or get vaccinated, if enough people choose not to, then you will have only enough staff for a certain number of beds, and then they will say that the hospitals have capacity.
Overrun, like they did last year.
Yes, they'll say that they're at capacity, and oh my gosh, we got to increase the numbers. And
last year they refused to actually to give out the census numbers when Bismarck City Commission requested them. They wanted to know the last 3 years to see if it was a bed shortage or to see if it was a staffing shortage, and both hospitals refused to release those numbers.
Wow.
And so you're going to see it again, where they're going to say our hospitals are full, and then they're going to, you know, and all these things you're going to see where if the nurses that truly want to take a stand, I think the best thing that they would do is just all band together and all just say no at once.
I think that's the only way it's going to be done.
Yep.
But boy, scary days ahead. I know a lot of viewers have actually asked us for assistance as far as helping to get some of that research out there. But Jan, there is a health summit coming up this weekend too.
No, next weekend.
Next weekend.
This weekend is the Midwest Freedom Fest.
Freedom Fest, but they're going to touch on some of this as well.
They will touch on the constitutionality of mandates, because there will be a constitutional scholar there. And then the following weekend will be the Rock Your Health Summit, which will be taking place at the Civic Center here in Bismarck. And they will have attorneys, they will have doctors, medical professionals, all kinds of folks there to answer all of your questions. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, you still have time to do so. That's on the 21st.
Coming up, right, and I thank you for that. So there is a Freedom Fest at Minokan Grove.
Correct.
Saturday, and then the Health Freedom Summit at the Civic Center next Saturday. But there's just so much. You're going to learn a lot if you can make it to either one of those or both of them, or if you have to split up and someone goes this weekend and someone goes next weekend to get that information. That would be fantastic.
So know that the Freedom Fest this weekend is free admission. So if you want to come and learn, please do. And you can get your tickets for the Rock Your Health Summit at healthfreedomnd for North Dakota.org. I almost said .com, but it's .org.
Great place to meet other like-minded people that are, especially if you're working in that system, you don't know what to do, you want to be connected with other people. We recommend everybody getting to the Rock Your Health Summit so that they can see faces that they may know but have never met.
You know, and it was brought to my attention by one of the producers that there are some of the states are getting together and it's not passing in the courts. The courts are saying, nope, this is fine. Your employer can require anything they want. We only have a minute left of the segment, but that's the scary part too, that the courts are upholding it. And it's like, how can that be? I mean, there's
private
just
entities.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's what it is. It's like, but it just doesn't make sense. And when things don't make sense, that's when we need to step back and take a look at it and ask yourself, why? Well, how can it not make sense?
Just like our elections.
Just like our elections. Boy, we're going to have to do some follow-up next week with the Nagel information that was released this week too. But Steve, do you want to stick around and do our lighter side with us? It's kind of a healthy thing. We're going to talk about hiking and whatnot, but next week it's going to be crazy busy too, just with the reviewing some of the Mike Lindell and some of the health things that are going on. But we're going to take a quick break right now, and we're going to come back with the lighter side. You're going to learn about hiking in the Black Hills right here on Ladies of Another View on Back.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to pull them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity. How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck with a dude. And this brings us to our lighter side. We like to leave everyone feeling with just something uplifting or something fun. But this is something that I had actually learned when I was down in Rapid City for the Freedom Fest. One of your husband's friend, I believe his name is Matt, there's a lot of hiking trails out in the Black Hills. I mean, miles and miles and miles.
Beautiful vistas too.
Amazing, just amazing. But one of them is called the Poet's Table, and so he tried to share the history of the Poet's Table. And basically,
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I hadn't either. But the gal, the waitress, she had heard about it. It's kind of a local thing. It's called the Poet's Table. They say that someone, and they don't know exactly who it was, in the 1920s had left a wooden table and a chair kind of up in one of these cliffs, but it was kind of protected over the top. And here's a photo of the chair, or the table and the chairs. But it's been there since the 1920s. And there's a kind of sorta a trail to get there, but you can't find it. It's very, very difficult to find. And
well, somebody got there to take a picture.
Right? And so a lot of the locals know where it is, but they don't tell anyone else because it's kind of like a treasure hunt in a way. It's like, you know, this is how you can go find it. But it was kind of interesting. Yeah, it's like geocaching too, if any of you guys like to do that. No? Yes?
At least geocaching, they give you a location or clues. Right. Here, all you know is there's some, like a cliff and some boulders and some green tables.
Well,
and that's kind of the Black Hills.
Right?
The whole Black Hills.
And that's what people were complaining about because there are directions. It says, from the Little Devil's Tower trailhead, continue 200 paces. All right?
Which direction?
Whose paces and which way?
There's 3 trailheads at Devil's Tower.
Perfect.
All right?
Wow.
So they don't tell you which one. And it says you'll come to a clearing roughly the size of a gas station.
What kind of gas station? We're talking a truck stop?
We're
talking the little corner thing?
Right? And then it says follow the leaning birch tree.
The what now?
The leaning birch tree.
What if it's not there anymore?
Well, I mean, sure. And also, don't pretty much all birch trees lean a little bit?
And it's in Custer State Park. No. And then it says stay to the right of the highest peak. And again, which peak are we talking about?
The highest one.
The highest one. But anyway, it's supposed to be kind of a search. And so the locals know how to get there. And if you ask them, they might take you, but they're going to go a roundabout way so that you can't find your trail a second time, is what Matt had said.
See, that sounds very entertaining. That would be fun. Almost like the hunt that they had in the Black Hills for a campsite that a friend had said they'd been to this campsite. There was a restaurant on a lake. You could rent bikes. You could go all around.
Sounds great.
Cannot find it a second time.
No
Finally,
way.
somebody says, were there magical unicorns too? We did eventually come across it. We found it eventually.
Amen. Dr. Steve, do you like to hike? Or what's your outdoor activity? What do you like to do?
I'd like to hike. I'll do some mountain biking as well. I don't do a whole lot of hiking around here.
Right. Right. So
well, we're kind of flat in this part of the country.
Flatlanders, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's so many different things just to get outside, basically get fresh air. And isn't that one of the things for COVID too? You need vitamin D, which you get from where? Yeah. The sun. The sun.
Primarily. Yeah.
And then oxygen, you know, so sunshine and fresh, clean air.
Grounding, yeah.
Grounding, yeah. A lot of people don't know what grounding is.
Yeah?
Yeah. You want to explain it, Chris?
Sure. So at all times, our body's creating oxidative stress or having these reactions going on in our body that creates different electrons, right? Positive, negative charges. And just like we need to have things grounded in our house to make sure things don't short circuit, that same sort of concept happens when our feet are on the ground. It's basically an unlimited supply of like electrons, or I forget the actual particle charge, details, but yeah, there's some interesting research on the whole aspect of grounding, and there is actually an entire industry where you can get grounding mats and things for where you're standing or where you're sitting at work that plug right into the grounding port in your
And have them
in
for
your
in
outlet.
your mattresses.
Yep.
I know in January I had what I called influenza A, and I'm sticking to it. But I went out and cleared snow off of the ground and went out and did grounding in my bare feet, wore my slippers outside across the concrete, got into the grass, cleared the snow, and stood there for as long as I could, breathed in the cold air slowly, made a big difference, and it was the turning point for me for getting well.
That's why when we do Tai Chi, we do it barefoot on the grass.
Yeah. Well, if you think about like when you're out gardening or doing things outside, you're really tired at the end of the day, but you feel really good and like relaxed, and because of that grounding effect. And it's kind of like it's how we're meant to be, but now we have rubber on our soles. We live inside houses where we're not grounded, where our hunters and gatherers ancestors were grounded all day long every day.
That's so interesting. We're going to have a whole segment on that. We only have a minute left of the show. But quickly, what are you doing this weekend?
Going to get coffee tomorrow morning.
Amen.
Yeah, Midwest Freedom Fest.
Out in Minoken.
Yeah.
And that starts about what time?
It runs 10 to 10. There's going to be live music. There's going to be speakers. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be lots of fun.
And Dr. Steve, you said you're going to be there tomorrow speaking?
Yes.
What time?
I have no idea.
No idea.
It's very
I know
fluid.
The first speaker's roughly around 1,
Okay.
but then we'll kind of go however it works. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I hope there's time for you guys to get out there, do some grounding, get grounded with the earth. We just have to get through this, and we're going to do it together. But I want you all to have a great weekend. We'll see you next time, I guess, Monday, with Ladies of Another View right here on Back. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.